This is Build It Baby, the show for big ideas, brave pivots, and bold next chapters. So let's do it. Let's build it, baby. Hey there, Penelope Bent here, and this is Build It Baby, the show for dreamers who are doers. If you've ever thought branding was just logos, colors, and fonts, websites, or social media, you are truly in for a very, very big surprise. Stick around because today we're going to talk about how your brand is actually already speaking loud and clear long before your logo ever really even appears. We're going to dive deeper into one of the biggest misunderstandings in business, your brand. Because branding isn't a decoration, branding is experience. Branding is energy, and most importantly, branding is trust. Branding is what people feel after interacting with you or a member of your team. And whether you realize it or not, you already have a brand. The only question is, are you building it intentionally? So I say, let's do this. Let's build it, baby. Okay, before we begin, I want you to think about this, for a minute, honestly. When people experience you or a member of your business team, what do they consistently feel? Do they feel clarity and trust, calm with confidence? Or do they have a feeling of confusion, chaos, pressure, perhaps distance? Because believe it or not, your brand is not what you say you are. It is not your tagline. Your brand is what people repeatedly experience when they interact with you or your business. Now, let me say something that may surprise people. Branding is not your logo. A beautiful logo cannot save a weak experience. A polished website cannot compensate for poor communication. And a perfectly curated Instagram page cannot build long-term trust if the actual interaction feels disconnected. Now, does visual brand matter? Well, of course it does. Presentation matters. Visual identity matters. Consistency matters. But in reality, branding starts much deeper than the visuals. Branding starts with the emotional experience that others have with you or that your clients have with you and your business. How do people feel when they encounter you or your business? Because people may forget the exact words, but I assure you, they rarely forget how you made them feel. And after decades of building businesses, having leadership conversations, interviewing candidates through my recruiting company, building teams, and working with other companies, I can tell you something with absolute certainty. People create your brand for better or worse. Every interaction leaves an impression. Every delayed response says something. Every conversation says something. Every email says something. Every meeting says something. Every social post says something. Every moment builds trust, or it slowly erodes it. That's branding. Your communication style is your brand. And one of the biggest brand indicators is just that. How do you communicate as an individual? How do you communicate with your clients and customers? And I'm not saying, what you communicate. Now think about that for a second. I'm not talking about what you're talking about. I'm talking about how do I feel when I am talking with you? How you communicate. Do you communicate clearly? Do you communicate consistently? Do people know where they stand with you? Or do interactions leave people feeling confused, unsafe, questioning your integrity? Let's talk about real life here. I've interviewed incredibly talented people over the years, people with outstanding resumes for my own company as well as for other companies that I have laid recruitment processes in for them. And these folks may have, amazingly strong technical skills, great experience, but the communication style completely weakened the perception of their abilities, perhaps their leadership skills. And this certainly isn't because they aren't intelligent or weren't intelligent, but because energy and communication create emotional interpretation. Now, I'm going to repeat that one. Because energy and communication create emotional interpretation. How are others interpreting what you are expressing? A person may say, I'm highly experienced. But if the delivery feels disengaged or flat or uncertain or disconnected, the experience says something entirely different. And this applies everywhere, whether you're a business owner, a leader, a creators, entrepreneurs, job seekers, podcasters, consultants, coaches, everyone. Your communication style becomes part of your identity in the marketplace. Now, this doesn't mean, becoming fake. I'm not suggesting that you, are become an actor and have your script. This does not mean becoming loud, and it certainly does not mean performing. It means becoming intentional. And there's such a difference there because intentional communication creates clarity, and clarity builds trust. Energy speaks before you do. Now let's go even deeper because energy is part of branding too, and people know this instinctively. You've walked into rooms before and immediately felt someone's energy. You've had calls with people and immediately sensed confidence or anxiety or pressure or authenticity. Energy speaks before words ever do. And I believe this is one reason so many people struggle professionally right now. Not because they lack intelligence, and certainly not because their internal energy is leaking externally. And I think, we've been talking a lot, I know, on LinkedIn about ageism and people referring to those in their 50s and 60s and so on, are unable to land a job these days. Well, quite honestly, I've never had a problem landing a job, and I am way over 60. And I really think that it has a lot to do with what are you bringing to the table as an individual? Is this your last dance? Are you ready to hang your hat up for retirement and kick back at the PAD? Or are you still stoked about learning new things and sharing great products with folks in the marketplace? I mean, what is your thing? What are you bringing to the table? Am I getting a feeling of exhaustion? Is there some bitterness? You're pissed off because you had to work, longer than you had anticipated, or you're not really thrilled with who you're working with? Is there a disconnect? Are you just putting in time? Do you feel like a victim? Are you defeated? Or are you just scared shitless? All those words, equal the type of energy that you're expressing. I mean, are you digging what you're doing? Or are you way past the excitement of it all? And what's really important here is this isn't about pretending to be happy all the time. I'm not even suggesting that. That's not authenticity either. But emotional management matters. Self-awareness matters. Presence matters because people are constantly asking one subconscious question. What would it feel like to work with that person or work with that business? And your energy answers before your resume ever does, or before you even lay your offer, your business offer on the table for your prospective client. Before your pricing even gets out there, before you even make your first pitch, your energy already is speaking for you. And this is true in relationships, whether it's friendships or leadership, business partnerships, social media conversations, everything. Your energy creates the experience. And responsiveness builds trust. Now, here's one people underestimate constantly. Responsiveness. I am big about responsiveness. And no, I don't mean being available 24/7. So, for all the work balance folks out there, I totally get that. And I'm completely in alignment with what you're thinking there. I'm talking about reliability here. What's the follow through? How's your follow through? I'm talking about professional presence. Are you there as a business when I needed you? Are you there with that support that you promised on your website that you were going to give me? That your representative told me, when you sold me this platform or this, new technology, that if there was a glitch, there would be somebody there that I could speak to. And I think there needs to be such an amazing respect for communication. If someone emails you and hears nothing for 2 weeks, that says something. That says a lot to me, and I am very attuned to that. If someone schedules time with you and you repeatedly reschedule, that says something. When I have, when I'm doing interviews, I've actually interviewed a candidate for a company, and I said, so what times are best for you, as far as meeting with the hiring manager this week? And this gentleman said to me, well, it's got to be after 11 a.m. in the morning because I usually stay up till 2 in the morning gaming with my buddy. So I really, I don't have it together until after 11. So I'm supposed to schedule my hiring manager, the company I'm working with, time to interview you around your gaming and after you get your morning little nappy? Oh, hell, I don't think so. And when you repeatedly reschedule, I'm a real firm believer in once I put it down on the dotted line, I will crawl to that meeting. Whatever it takes, I've made my commitment. I said I'll be there. And by God, unless I am, unable, I will absolutely be there. What does that say? That says a lot. That says something about who I am as an individual, and it says even more about my company. Because if I am like that, then I assure you, everyone that works with me, and I don't say for me, I don't like that term. That's never felt good to me. But anyone within my company that works with me, or I work for, can honestly say that about me. I will show up, and I will have bells on, and I will have the best attitude on the planet. If people never know whether you're going to respond, that becomes part of your brand. Now, again, I'm not suggesting perfection. I get it. Life happens. We're human. But I do believe strongly that if you create, times and intentional block of times that you work with your clients or whatever that is, then life needs to not happen during that period of time. There has to be a commitment toward, I'm working. I've made that commitment. No, I can't go to lunch with girlfriends. I get it that the children are going to be in a Christmas play and I am going to beat feet as soon as I'm finished, and I will be there before, you guys have had the first chorus. We're all human, but we've got to try to make, to work around our commitments in business. And we try to blend our lives in there as comfortably as possible. I understand that. But if you're consistent with your clients, if you're consistent as an individual, that creates an emotional safety. And emotional safety builds trust. One of the strongest brands you can ever build is reliability. It's really simple. Do what you say you're going to do. That's it. And respond with care. Communicate clearly. I've already said that. And if something changes, say so honestly. Because people trust predictability, especially in these uncertain times. And here we go again. I'm bringing this up. You're probably going to, click out of this conversation. But presentation matters more than people want to admit. And you know me, I'm all about presentation. And I know that I've spoken about this topic before, and I know many people often get uncomfortable when I talk about this. But because presentation absolutely does matter. And I know sometimes people want to reduce this conversation into, it's about vanity. No, it isn't. It's about respect. It's about the time that you're preparing to meet with your client. Did you just roll out of bed? Or did are you actually prepared for the conversation? It's not about vanity. It's about communication. It's about how you present your brand. And your presentation, by God, it tells a story. And after years being in business, I can tell you firsthand, presentation absolutely affects perception. Now, before anybody gets, pissed off at me and defensive, I'm not talking about expensive clothes. I'm not talking about, a particular age. This is not about perfection. I am not talking about, a dramatically filtered Zoom call. I'm not even talking about, not looking like an influencer, which those always really get me, the influencers. This is about intentionally presenting an aligned version of your company. And you know what that says? It says you're aware of your brand. You're intentionally presenting a polished, professional version of yourself. What does that say to your client or customer? Or if you're interviewing, what does that say to your potential boss? It says that you are a pro. It says that you will represent their company well if you're interviewing. It says that if I'm going to buy your product based on your presentation and the details you have brought to the table, that I can feel confident that you will supply the product or service on time. Because people are constantly interpreting these signals and don't think that they're not. It's not just your tone, but it's your appearance, your preparation, your environment, your camera presence. Yes, I know. You may not like it, my friend, but by God, it makes a tremendous difference. And we've talked a lot about, I've done interviews with candidates for hire that have a sleeping partner in the bed behind them. I mean, I could go on and on. It's almost, it's funnier than hell after a while. I mean, what are you thinking? Are you kidding me? This is about your professionalism, your attentiveness. It all communicates something. And one of the biggest mistakes people make is assuming their intentions are automatically translated. They don't automatically translate. People experience behavior. They don't experience intention. Intention is something that you know what your intention is. The key to building your company and your brand and making it a success is that your intention is available. It is translated. It is felt by others, by those customers, those clients, or those folks that are wanting to hire. And this is why I've seen incredibly talented people struggle in interviews. And it isn't because of age or intelligence, but it's because their presentation communicated a disconnection from the environment they wanted to enter. And I'll tell you something, this isn't an old school discussion. I just had this happen within the last 30 days. I was working on a project for a sales engineer for a technology company. And this particular sales engineer he was just terrific, because if you're a sales engineer, it's a very unique position, because most people that are engineers, they're not salespeople. And in the role of a sales engineer, you are working with, customer facing, you're representing the company with an interaction directly with the customer. They may have purchased the technology, and you're as an engineer instructing them on how this works, or you are in the middle of working with the account executive to sell the technology to the client. And some of these sales, we're talking, $4 or $5 million for 3-year contracts and so on to use this technology. So when the sales engineer, this unique combination of skill, they're hard to find. And when you find them, you're like, oh my God, this guy's absolutely perfect. So I thought this fellow was absolutely perfect. And he had the very last part of the interview was a presentation, and it was a Zoom call. And he was to arrive to present as though he was presenting to a client. Well, I'd already gotten the word that he had drastically failed the final leg of, I think, a 4 or 5 interview process. So when I called him to let him know that it was going to be a pass on his candidacy, he asked me, well, is there a particular reason that I wasn't selected? And I said to him, so were you prepared for the presentation that you made? Were you visually prepared? And he said, well, actually, I had been working in the garden, and I wanted to get some, things planted before the presentation. And I kind of ran in, and no, I had my baseball cap on backwards, and I had a kind of a sweaty T-shirt on. But I figured that, my technology, my skill, my skill was, in what I was presenting, that my technology, that was going to be the most important piece. And I was truly stunned for a moment. And I said to him, well, the most important piece is that you're representing their company. So that's where the visual presentation matters. The skill level matters, absolutely. The way you speak to the customers, how you communicate, that matters. But how you present yourself is exactly that. How you are communicating. How are you representing my company? That was the bigger question. And that is exactly why he did not get the very, very high paying position. It was an oversight, and I honestly think it'll never happen to him again. If he's a smart guy, which I think he is, it will never happen again. Presentation, it can communicate that you get it, or there's a disconnect. And I've also seen people in their 50s, 60s, even 70s absolutely command a room. Why? Because their alignment was magnetic. Presence is magnetic. Engagement is magnetic. Energy is magnetic. I'm excited about everything in life. I love what I do. I love the clients I work with. Does it help them, make their day? I think sometimes it does. It's fun. We have a great time. And I also think it's important to understand that consistency creates identity. And this is where I believe branding really becomes powerful. Consistency, because branding is repetition. People trust what feels familiar. Now, this doesn't mean becoming a robot. It means becoming recognizable. What do people consistently know you for? Well, you know what they know me for? They know that at 5 a.m, I am ready for a party. I am excited. Let's make this happen. That is just who I am. Is it my last dance? Hell no. I am ready to boogie. And that emotional experience repeats itself. They know they're going to get that same thing. And I'm sure I probably am a handful for some. It's like, Jesus Christ, lady, let me have my first cup of coffee. I get it. That becomes your identity in the marketplace. It's okay. I'd rather, just be me. And this is why random messaging weakens brands. One day, people are very motivational and they're excited. And the next day, they're either on the pity pot, there's chaos, there's a disconnect. And the next day, those folks are disappearing entirely. They're taking a nap. They don't even want to show up at the meeting. So consistency builds trust because it reduces the confusion, and confused people hesitate. And this is another really important piece. You do not need millions of followers to build a strong brand. What you need is clarity about your brand, consistency about your brand, and an emotional alignment. You need trust. That's what strong brands are built on. Why? Because your brand is being built in moments you think don't even matter. Clients and customers are feeling your consistency before they ever buy from you. Your communication style directly affects opportunity, and reliability creates trust faster than hype ever will. And a big because is because emotional experience has become one of the most valuable currencies in today's marketplace. People want to feel safe. They want to feel clear, seen, respected, understood. And the brands that survive moving forward will be the ones that create those experiences consistently, not visually, but humanly, with truth. Your brand speaks in every one of your client customers' conversations, every email structure, making sure that the structure, the grammar, the signature, your response time, it all tells a story about who you are. Every delay of keeping your promise, that says a whole other thing about your brand. Every post, every room you enter, the question is not whether you have a brand. The question is, how are you building it? And I really hope you will build it intentionally. So here's the part where I tell you exactly what I know. These are my knowings, the things I no longer question because they've shown themselves to me again and again. Not from a book, but from building, getting knocked down, getting back up, and doing this work in the real world. Okay, so here are my knowings. Number 1. I know that creating your truth around your brand is an essential element of your business success. Number 2, I know that one of the most important requirements of creating a company with staying power is its people. And number 3, I know that the clients I work with deserve the very best that I have to offer. And finally, number 4, I know reliability creates trust faster than hype ever will. So those are my knowings. Okay, here we go. Time for listener question. Here's Whitney from Louisiana. I have just launched a startup. Could you please help me with what I should look for in hiring my first team? Wow, Whitney, that is a great question. And I think this is going to be kind of an interesting answer because I have done a lot of interviewing for hiring folks for startups. And one of the things that I found, which was really a huge surprise, was the most important aspect of the individual that you want to hire for your startup is flexibility. Now, let me explain that one to you. because I've experienced this in my own company. And what I mean by flexibility is this. When you look at a resume and you see, okay, these people, this person has worked at so and so and so and so and so they've got a good track record. They've, spent quite a bit of time with each company and expanded their knowledge and so on and so forth. Well, when you work for bigger companies, let's say you're working for Cisco, or, you're working for Dell, or, a large company, CloudStrike, or whatever. What happens is that all those companies have really developed processes. They have processes that they have honed that are in place. So when you are hired by a company like those, the bigger companies, then your training programs are all laid out there. I mean, they have this thing, designed down to a gnat's eyebrow. It's perfect because they've done it so many times. They've taken all the mistakes out of it. When you're a startup, and I'm not kidding you, I can start off at 8:00 in the morning with, okay, here's what the plan is, and here's how we're going to develop this. And by 1:00, we have changed that process 3 different ways to Sunday. And I remember having a production director who I just made her life miserable, because she was one of those individuals who liked, she wanted to know, how was it going to be? And she wanted that practically written in stone. Well, when you're building a company from the beginning, as a startup, hell, you don't know. You're just throwing some spaghetti on the wall, putting a fairly good processes together, and then you'll hone it as you go along. Okay, well, that didn't work, or let's add a little bit of this in. So it is forever evolving. That is the most exciting piece of a startup. The other aspect is, when you interview, there's personality traits. There's questions that you can ask that will really give you the clues as to whether those folks can bob and weave a bit, or do they get frustrated? I thought we were going to do it this way, but now we're going to do it that way. When you hire, be honest. This is a startup. We are creating as we go along. And you know what's so cool about startups? Is because if you meet people that really want to bring something to the table, they want to be relevant. You can many times bring people from a company that they've been with these bigger companies for years, and they just got lost in the shuffle because the companies are too big. Those are perfect people for a startup because they want to participate. They want to bring great new ideas, and they want the flexibility because they want the creativity. They want to be part of building the process. So those are the folks that you want to look for. You want to look for those that want to step away and want to get on the boat and go to unknown territories, and help create and build anew. That's the type of individual that you want. They're flexible. And I also believe very strongly, and I know this sounds like something that would never be on an interview, do these folks have a sense of humor? Because honest to God, if you don't have a sense of humor in the middle of a startup, it's going to be a real long, dreary ride. But if you can work with people that are willing to kick that idea to the curb and bring another one in, and laugh with exhaustion when y'all have been working 14 hours to get those orders out on Christmas Eve, then you know that is the right person to be working with. So those are just a couple ideas. Yeah, flexibility, wanting to become relevant or to be relevant and participate, and having a great sense of humor. Those would be my 3 musts in hiring for a startup. Whitney, great question. I hope you're doing well in Louisiana, and don't hesitate to call in if you need some additional help on an interview process. I'd be happy to help you put that together. Well, it's that time. Thanks for listening to Build It, Baby. And please understand, the strongest and most successful brands are not built through social media or through performance. They are built through consistency, through trust, through the emotional experience. And when those things come together, people remember you, not because you're loud, but because you're clear. Always best, P. Build It Baby is a Rainy Day Production House original, hosted by Penelope Bent and produced and edited by Morgan Clymer. Music by Yuri Shemshashen and Oleksiy Holobiev. If this episode spoke to you, please follow the show and leave a review. It helps more dreamers like you find us. And remember, you're not just building a bold business or a career, you're building a bold life.